this episode, man.
Oh, what a day.
What a lovely day.
So, what were you saying before we got started?
If you see something, say nothing and drink to forget. Welcome to the first part of the season finale of Gravity Falls.
Hello, horror fans! Welcome to another episode of Silver Screams. Tonight we are talking about Season 2, Episode 17 of Gravity Falls.
I think it's 18.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's 18. Whatever, who cares?
Weirdmagedon Part 1. How many parts are we going to have? Is it going to be 2 or 3?
I believe 2.
Because last season we had 20 episodes.
Maybe we have something after I don't know, Katie. I
don't know
Up
anything anymore.
is down, right is left, dogs and cats living together.
Weird
Mass
bubbles.
hysteria. Okay, so thoughts on this episode. This is probably the most my jaw has ever been on the floor for any given Gravity Falls episode.
It only took about 10 seconds.
And it just stayed on the floor the rest of the time, except for when I started cheering for Wendy. Like, there were so many moments where I'm like, Wendy, you are my favorite person in the world.
Wendy is
Don't
amazing.
ever change. What would Tumblr call her? A sweet cinnamon roll, too good for this world.
No, she is not a sweet cinnamon roll. There's almost a Punnett square. There is looks like a cinnamon roll, is a cinnamon roll, looks like a cinnamon roll, could kill you, looks like could kill you, is a cinnamon roll, and looks like could kill you, could actually kill you. She is the latter. She looks like she could kill you, and she could actually kill you.
Yep.
Seuss is the cinnamon roll. Mabel is the looks like a cinnamon roll, but could actually kill you. And Dipper is the looks like could kill you, but is actually a cinnamon roll.
I'll take your word for that. I'm not on Tumblr, so I don't understand these things.
And Stan is just the cinnamon roll. SINNAMON.
Boo, puns.
No, that's part of the square.
Boo, it's a pun still. So let's start from the beginning, I guess. Weirdmagedon has come, and
It's hell.
I'll be honest,
It's hell.
I didn't know what I was expecting, but I gotta say,
It wasn't that.
well, because as interesting and weird as it was and as weird as it got, it could have been worse. This could have been some Hellraiser shit, but because this is a cartoon for children, they can't necessarily go that route. But that doesn't mean they pulled their punches.
How did he get any of that past the censors? There was
He switched Nathan Fillion's face orifices around.
And we just left it there. Like, no, he's dead now. That was fucked up. That was holy cow.
Nathan Fillion is dead now.
Just the part where Bill gets a body and it's all the flesh wrapping around, and then it's like,
Yeah, and
there are some children out there who are gonna have horrific nightmares tonight.
I did really
I'm
like
gonna have horrific nightmares tonight.
I did really like the touch of Dipper looking in the book and it saying, if he takes physical form, all hope is lost. That was a nice little touch.
Mm-hmm.
But so we have, again, this could have been way worse because I was picturing an army and it ends up just being kind of a group.
A house party.
Yeah, it just kind of ended up being a group of Bill's closest friends.
You know what it kind of is?
What?
It's Night on Bald Mountain.
You know?
Satan shows up, Chernabog shows up, throws a raging house party for all of his crazy-ass friends, and then leaves when the religion police show up at the end and they start doing Ave Maria.
The difference
is the cops showed up here and they all died.
With the exception of Blendon.
That's gonna come into play. There's no
Absolutely.
way that's not gonna come into play. And I feel like that was one of Bill's mistakes, was choosing a time traveler to be his vessel, because that immediately clues in the time traveling brigade, and Blendon is still able to travel because he did the whole I'm getting out of time dodge thing, like, great Scott, Marty, all that fun stuff.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I haven't looked it up, but I've been watching Rick and Morty, and I swear to God, Blendon is Morty. I'm going to have to look that up, but they sound exactly the same. So, like, there's no way they're not the same person. So that cracks me up.
We did have that moment, I don't remember if it was Rick and Morty or if it was another show, where Stan loses his paper and his cup through a portal, and they wind up in some other completely different show.
I'm trying to... I think it was Rick and Morty.
Was it Rick and Morty?
I want to say it was Rick and Morty.
It's one hell of a crossover, but nonetheless.
Actually, speaking of Gravity Falls crossovers, for those of you who have been playing Life is Strange, there's kind of a nod to Gravity Falls in there. Like, at one point, there's something in the background that says, like, trust no one, or something like that. And Alex Hirsch actually, like, retweeted it, and he was like, hey, looks like Max might be in Gravity Falls. Something along those lines. But it's one of those things where, because the situation is so weird and bizarre, that it would fit right at home in Gravity Falls. And that stylistically, it also fits. Anyway.
Not this Gravity Falls, though. This Gravity Falls is
so messed bonkers. But again, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting, like, We Are Legion or something and, like, destroying the world. I wasn't expecting, guys, cool it. It's the cops, I'll handle this.
Let me do the talking, turn the music down. It's like he's very much chaotic evil. And when you have someone whose whole goal is to come in and take over a dimension, you expect them to be some form of regimented. You expect either lawful or neutral evil. So to have him come in and have it be chaotic and have it just be a house party, it's a very different flavor of hell. It's not what we, who are somewhat familiar with the dimensional invader trope, would expect.
No.
And so that makes it even scarier because it is chaotic and you cannot plan for anything.
He goes back and forth from being the devil to being a rowdy teenager.
He does.
Like, and one moment he's throwing energy blasts at somebody and manipulating them like a marionette puppet and turning people to stone and having his voice be all deep and menacing and having a giant rift in the sky and imprisoning people in bubbles, to the next going, guys, cool it. It's cool. I'll fix this. Don't worry about it.
If you've earned yourself a break, you can eat the kid.
Exactly.
Just like,
and again, that's how Bill has always been, but it's just so weird to see him 100% in power.
It's amped up to 11,000.
Exactly, because this is
over 9,000.
This is gonna be a rager. It's awesome.
We're gonna go until reality literally tears itself apart. Because Time Baby and the Time Brigade show up to essentially go, you need to cease and desist and close the rift because it will murder reality. And Bill just wipes them from existence.
He's like that kid in Australia who threw that crazy party and just didn't care.
I remember that news
the one that
was super interesting.
Yeah, that one that inspired, what was it, Party X, that movie or something like that?
I don't know.
Anyway, to get back to the episode, we have Ford and Dipper, choosing to fight the good fight because heroes will choose to fight even when they have no chance of winning. But
they did have one chance and they missed it.
They blew it. They blew it because the bell was like, I'm alive now.
We had a wave of weirdness come through, and in the bell tower they're in, it enlivened the bell behind them and made it very cartoony. And so Ford and his quantum manipulator, was that what it was?
Yeah, he had a quantum manipulator.
It's like, we only have one shot, and he missed and blew it through Bill's hat, which is evidently made of flesh.
Also is part of him. It's disgusting.
It's so creepy.
I will say that Wendy had an epiphany that Ford did not. And actually, the second Ford said, before you find Mabel, we have to do this. I knew he was in the wrong. Because we were talking about it last week that we wanted them... Again, I wanted either Mabel to fix this or for them to do it together. And to have Ford go, no, we're heroes. We have to shoulder this burden and everything like that. It was like, no, guy, your priorities are wrong. They were able to defeat Bill together. But that's how you go about it.
We are seeing it from the outside here.
Yeah, no, of course.
And Ford's a huge problem in and of himself. Part of the issue is we never really got a lot of characterization for him. He was mostly a vehicle to explain more of the lore.
Exposition,
and there's this, and there's that, and there's dice, and there's this other thing, and here's my bazillion-sided dice, and here's this thing, and
here I'm this heroic figure for Dipper to look up to and aspire to be.
But we never really got much characterization from him aside from extremely maligned, paranoid man who spent the past 30 years in an alternate dimension. Like, okay, that's your starting point, go. But aside from backstory episode where we got some interactions with Stan, we haven't really gone much deeper with Ford. And so when it comes to this, the audience is just like, oh God, Ford, why? So, he gets taken out and we're like, well, that really sucks, as opposed to, no, which is what we would be for anybody else.
Not gonna lie, I thought Bill was gonna kill him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everybody who's been turned to stone / gold or whatever, they're gonna be fine. I'm not worried about them. I'm not even worried about Pacifica's dad, who got his face all rearranged.
I think we're just gonna hand wave the heck out of that.
I think what we're going to do is either hit the cosmic reset button, or the second they get banished, everything's gonna go back to quote-unquote normal, whatever that is, and whatever that is. But the thing about this is that, yeah, we can't blame Ford necessarily for thinking the way he does, because he hasn't been here.
Yeah.
And the second he got here, he decided to isolate himself again.
But the series hasn't exactly gone out of its way to make us empathize with him or care about him beyond that he's a really cool guy. We're mostly seeing his effect on Dipper and Mabel and their relationship, and it has been a detrimental effect.
He has become a wedge between them, exactly.
Especially since the first thing he does is just Stan for bringing him back, because Stan didn't know what that portal was going to do. He just wanted his brother back.
Exactly.
And instead of going, I really appreciate you bringing me back, but holy shit, we have problems, it's keep everything a secret, keep everything a secret. And I watch a lot of Arrow, and not telling people problems and secrets is what makes people die. Arrow has one hell of a body count, and a lot of it is, well, I didn't tell my brother this, well, I didn't tell my sister that, well, I didn't tell my kids this, well, I didn't tell my friends this, and it's keeping secrets gets people killed. And in this case, keeping secrets made the apocalypse happen.
Yeah, because
so it's a huge problem.
Again, if Mabel had known, there would have been at least an attempt to keep this object safe. It probably wouldn't have worked, but there would have been an attempt at the very least.
But at this point, we have something that would have been easily prevented if they just talked to each other occur, and the audience doesn't sympathize with Ford.
Well, and that's a trope. We went in length about it last time, so we should move on from it. But like, I absolutely hate that trope of, I have to protect you, so I'm not going to tell the truth. I hate
Don't ever
that.
play Kingdom Hearts.
I hate that. Maybe it's just because I'm getting old.
You could have just talked to each other, but no!
Like, to me, like, because, like I said, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but to me that just seems like a contrivance at this point. Like, the writer is like sitting here going, how am I going to make this happen? Oh, I'm going to have this character keep this a secret from someone else because they want to protect them.
I think in this case it makes sense, because Dipper is Dipper definitely looks up to Ford, the author of the journals, oh my god. And Ford hasn't really given him a reason to distrust him or to question.
It's bad. I'm just don't like it. That's
no. Just it's bad when it's clumsily used. In this instance, the groundwork was laid, so it's still annoying to be like, just tell her what it is. But you can understand why, because you have a very paranoid, bitter man who has a lot of influence on a very young person's life. And so it's just hard to watch sometimes.
Speaking of young people, we should probably talk about the rest of the episode, move on a little bit to the other characters, because Seuss makes me... His abuela got turned into a chair, a sofa.
She's like, that's okay, take care of the others, I'll be here. I'm going to take a nap. And the chair reclines. That is the best pun, and probably the best thing they could have done, because it's still the weird stuff, but it's just showing someone who's completely chill with what happened. Oh yeah, it'll be fine, I'm just gonna hang out. Like, that's probably the best reassuring the kids thing they could have done.
I will say it is super convenient that none of our heroes have been affected by the
weirdness
madness.
Waves. Yeah.
Like, the closest we get is Dipper and Wendy, having birds' heads and then turning into anime. Which, anime Dipper and Wendy is my new favorite thing.
Those were super great. Just the really quick, really weird stylistic changes during the car change through the weird bubbles. And we also got that with Gideon and Ghost Eyes.
But they were temporary, and it's very convenient that Seuss's grandma gets turned into something, but he does not. And I can't help but wonder if, like, this isn't in reference to the whole
unicorn hair thing?
Well, no, the circle. Oh. Because anytime they showed, like, that flash of Bill with the circle around it with all the different symbols, there's been tons of theorizing about the tree being Dipper and about the shooting star being Mabel and about different pictures
Everyone
representing
has
different
a symbol.
people. And I can't help but wonder if, like, all of this wasn't meant to be
Possibly.
at the same, like, and so that's why they're not touched by it, because otherwise it's just convenient to the narrative.
I'm
Anyway,
okay with it being convenient to the narrative.
because it gives us the characters we want to see, of course.
Well, and otherwise you get this post-apocalyptic hellish horror story that you can't get out of.
Exactly.
And when you're walking into that one, when you're walking into Dawn of the Dead, when you're walking into whatever, and basically the world is screwed, everyone's gonna die, it's gonna be a downer ending, and you just have this group of survivors that are trying to do the best they can in the situation. This is not that kind of story. This is a story that has hope. But if you wipe out all of the protagonists, you don't get that.
No, and you
And
don't
so
get
it's a
that
different execution.
awesome moment of Wendy breaking that guy's arm.
It's like when I break his arm and then do this and then put your, like, what was it?
I'm
Something
going to
about
wear
wearing
your butt
butt
as
on my
a
foot like a
slipper.
rhinestone slipper. What makes you think you could do that? Because I am a car. It just breaks the guy's arm, and oh my god, she will survive in the apocalypse.
Well, and I love that we've gotten so much of her this season, because she was the one, that essentially took down the shapeshifter. She was the one that, encouraged Mabel to beat up the unicorn. And now she's the one that is getting Dipper through the apocalypse.
Because evidently her dad had them all do apocalypse training instead of Christmas.
Well,
I guess it helps when you live in Gravity Falls.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned Dawn of the Dead just now, because where does she hide out? It's a mall. And sure enough, she has...
And essentially the hot topic.
Yeah, she has this setup where, she has a trap laid for anything that waltzes into the mall, while this Titan abomination with its just giant arm and giant head crawls around outside. It's disgusting.
You want to get in my mouth? You want to get in my mouth? And we're sitting here going, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, if Titans could talk.
Yep. All of you who read the manga, don't say anything.
I'm gonna go call my mom.
He just grabs the car and throws it in his mouth. But anyway, so they meet up and they get captured by Gideon and the Road Warriors, a.k.a. the War Boys, a.k.a.
his jail buddies. His jail buddies.
And just the moment he said Bill came through, I take that back. The moment we cut back to Gideon and his little art project, we already see everything about his deal. It was, give me Mabel and I'll do whatever you want. And sure enough, that's why Mabel got sucked into this little bubble at the very beginning of the episode, which was terrifying also. So they get cornered by Gideon and his group. Wendy has this awesome fight scene, and they
utterly
drive away.
destroys one of them, and then they grab what looks like, I don't know, like a Crown Victoria.
I don't know.
Something.
Anyway,
and just go.
They drive through, have their Thelma and Louise moment, tumble the car, meet up with Seuss again, who is essentially a desperado wanderer who has songs written about him.
Folk songs about me. How long has the apocalypse been going on? Hasn't it been like a day?
Well, that just goes to show that Seuss has been helping a lot of people since he left the house.
But I'm pretty sure it's been like a day.
Songs will be sung about his brave deeds and selflessness.
I suppose it could be longer. I don't know, but just following Dipper's story,
time is an illusion.
That's true. But just following Dipper's story, it feels like it has been a very short amount of time.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out also that while Ford has been turned into a back scratcher, Stan has been running in fear, and we don't know what happened to him after he initially split trying to get away from the giant goat.
Stan is also a guy who punched out zombies with brass knuckles to save his family.
No, absolutely.
So
I don't think he got out of town, but the fact that he ran away from the goat, and we don't know what's happened to him ever since, means I think he's going to come swinging in to save the day at some point. Because he is a badass when he wants to be, and he looks awesome when he does it.
And they didn't do anything with him last episode.
They didn't do anything with him in this episode either. He just ran off, and it was like this brief moment of hilarity, and that was it. He wasn't in the last episode. And then, you know, the episode before that, yeah, he was a big deal, but even the episode before that, he was barely around. So we've barely seen Stan in the latter half of this season.
They can't seem to have Stan and Ford in the same episode.
No.
Like, they did it twice.
Yep, and that was it. That's all of the time that they could spend together without driving each other crazy. If they just learned to work together in the same way that Dipper and Mabel work together, maybe great things could be accomplished.
Well, and now that we're hitting the end of the season, I'm kind of looking at it as, okay, what did we do? What could we have done better? And again, I'm going back to Arrow last season where they spent forever leading up to Nanda Parbat and then didn't spend very much time there. In much the same way, they spent forever leading up to getting this machine to work, where if we'd knocked it out within the first 4 or 5 episodes of the season, we could have had more time with Ford. We could have had more time with Stan. We could have had more time to talk about their relationship and possibly develop it so that when we get to this point, we actually give a damn about Ford and we don't feel like we've been slighted a lot of Stan development.
I don't think either of those is the case, actually. I think what might be happening is we get Weirdmagedon Part 1 and 2, and then we get our resolution. I think it is a 3-parter.
Most likely.
I feel like the majority of the next episode is going to be
the prison.
The prison, yeah, and it's going to be like Dreamscapers in the last season. And then the final episode will be the resolution, which won't be a part anything. It's just going to be our resolution.
Yeah.
But anyway, so and we'll get more into predictions later. But so they crash their car and they get surrounded. And this is where we get into kind of eyebrow-raising territory.
I didn't buy this at all.
Because it's either a ploy, rushed character development, or completely undermining everything that has kind of led up to this moment. Because basically Gideon's like, haha, I have you cornered, Mabel is mine,
I have the only key to her prison.
There's nothing you can do about it, and now you're essentially all gonna die. And Dipper makes this entreaty, and this is great for Dipper's character development, because if there's one thing he's learned, thank God, throughout this entire season, is that you can't make somebody love you, but at the very least,
the best you can do is become someone worthy of being loved. And he kind of looks back at Wendy when he says that, like, yep, he's got it.
Yeah, he knows it's never going to happen, but that doesn't mean he doesn't want to be the best that he can be. He wants to be somebody worthy of finding love somewhere, which is great. He knows it's not going to be with Wendy, but he knows it's out there somewhere.
Pacifica.
Yes. Kiss, kiss, kiss.
I ship it.
I do too.
Really
when did that happen? I know. We know when it happened. But because we're 12-year-old girls apparently. But Gideon has this moment of realization with Dipper's entreaty that what he's doing is wrong, that if he ever wanted to win Mabel, that he's going about it in the completely wrong way, that controlling someone isn't the same as having them love you.
Like, is this what Mabel would want?
Yeah, exactly. And so he turns to Dipper and he's like, will you tell her what I've done?
Because he knows going against Bill is basically a death sentence.
It is. And so and I want to know this guy's story, because there's one guy, it wasn't Ghost Eyes, it was just one random guy in their posse who, he's like, okay, change of plans, we're going to go attack Bill. And this guy was like, you know what? Attacking children is boring. Attacking a chaos god, that sounds like fun. Witness!
I honestly want to know Ghost Eyes' story, because we also get
He was a major in psychology.
Philosophy, actually.
Oh, that was it.
And it's just like, what happened? Why don't you have pupils? How did you end up in prison? Why are you such good friends? I want his story. He's just such an interesting little one-off side character, and I kind of love him.
Yeah, no, it was really great. And you also pointed out that we didn't get Fiddleford in this episode, which was very interesting.
I think McNuggets went for the hills. I think he went for the hills a while ago.
Yeah. And it's almost a shame that everybody in the Society of the Blind Eye had their memories erased, because I would have liked to have seen what they would have done as a society, as a group, as a coalition what they would have done against this. They probably would have just gotten vaporized like the Time Baby did.
But we had two throwbacks. We had one being the gear shift on the car that Bill makes is the little head they had with, I don't think it was a phrenology thing, but it was the little parts of the brain sectioned off. And the other one was from the burning journals. We had the Ford's diagram of Bill, and then with the segmented head with the mind.
Which, BTW, we don't have the journals anymore.
Rule of threes. It's coming up again.
But, and I want to point...
Stan has a copy, you said.
Yes, I wanted to point out that at the very beginning of the season, when he gave the journal back to Dipper, he had photocopied everything so that he could continue to work on the portal without Dipper and Mabel getting suspicious. It's like, here's your book back, don't worry, it's all in one piece. And so I wonder if he didn't photocopy everything else from the other journals that he had. I imagine a man as careful as Stan would have done that as a backup. But at the same time, that doesn't fix all the blacklight stuff.
Yeah.
And who knows if those copies are still intact, if he made them at all.
And then again, the blacklight stuff just said, yeah, you're doomed. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Fair.
Doom, doom, doom. I'm going to sing the Doom song now. Doom, doom, doom. Anyway, to get back. So Gideon has this heel face turn and decides to ride off into the sunset like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, going up against a fight he knows he can't win. And they just ride off into the sunset while Dipper, Seuss, and Wendy walk into Mabel's prison.
And we fade to white with a to be continued.
We do indeed.
Yeah, of course we do. I feel like the development for Gideon was very cheap. I was expecting, after he said, will you tell her what I've done, I was expecting him to turn on them completely. Like, this just came right the heck out of nowhere. And I understand the lesson that they're trying to teach and be like, you too can change and be like this and be worthy of earning someone's affection as opposed to just wanting to own them. Like, I get that they were going for a specific lesson. I just don't think they took long enough to get there. Because there was no... I mean, we even saw his artwork earlier with the knives and the stabbity and the revenge and the possessiveness of Mabel.
Revenge and love.
We saw this 10 minutes worth of screen time ago, and that just... There was nothing in Gideon that we'd seen so far that would have suggested he was capable of this change. It was not
capable of a selfless act of love.
Yeah.
It was... Not to, like... Sailor Moon Crystal versus the original Sailor Moon, going with the whole Prince Demond thing of I want this person and I want to control them, and that's the same as love, right? And in the 90s version, he got a little bit of a redemption arc because he died saving her, and in Crystal, spoilers I guess, he died, whatever, he died not because he wanted to save her, but because hey, no, if anybody's gonna kill these guys, it's gonna be me, and then died.
Oh, congratulations.
That was a nice character arc, and that's why I prefer the 90s anime.
But that gave a damn.
But even then, it was the person he was trying to control that was basically telling him, look, this isn't gonna work. And it was also a long time coming, his brother had been murdered. I felt like that one was more earned for that, last bit of redemption. This one, I feel like it kind of undermines everything that the moral of every Gideon episode, basically. Because the moral of all of those was that this is not the way to act. Yeah, this is not healthy relationship behavior. The nice guy way of going about things is not the way to get somebody to love you. You can't force someone to love you.
Yeah, Gideon was the horrifying epitome of a nice guy, except he had a pompadour instead of a fedora. And it was just,
very much so. And it was
when they introduced him, that is the most uncomfortable I've ever been watching Gravity Falls, was watching him go after Mabel and continue to push her into things. That was
everyone's
terrifying.
Watching, I'm doing a nice
if she
thing.
Doesn't say yes,
that means you have to love me, right?
Yeah, women are not machines that you put nice queens in.
It was just an amplified version of what Dipper was doing as well. It was a parallel because both of them were, they had feelings for somebody who didn't love them back. and it was just like a horrifying mirror inverse version of Dipper's feelings for Wendy, neither of which
Luckily
are
for
good.
us, Dipper's not a raging sociopath.
Exactly.
Which is why it's weird that the raging sociopath had the face heel turn after one speech.
And I feel like it's also, again, it's one of those things where it's like, this is kind of promoting the idea that, like, if I love him, he'll change. It's like,
not
no.
necessarily.
Or that love can change somebody who is destructive and violent into something that's not destructive and violent.
They have to make the choice to change. It was done better in Beauty and the Beast.
It was done way better in Beauty and the Beast. It was so much better.
But that was also partially the point of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
whereas this is definitely, it's just, we've addressed Gideon. Gideon's now out of the way. Let's continue on.
If you're making the argument that Beauty and the Beast is about Stockholm Syndrome, you're being lazy.
You're wrong.
You're being lazy
You're so
is what
wrong.
you're being. You're trying to be intellectual without actually looking at the story.
You're wrong.
So, but this, on the other hand, he was hoping for Stockholm Syndrome is what Gideon was hoping for. She loves me, she just doesn't know it yet. It's like,
I've got an eternity. It's like, oh, honey.
Oh dear. No, if you kill her twin brother, she's never gonna forgive you, bro. She's probably never gonna forgive you for like causing the apocalypse also.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that about wraps it up for this episode.
Like that was the only weak point in the finale. Like, so much of the rest of it was so good that Gideon's face heel turn was like, well, that came right the heck out of nowhere. And exited stage left.
It would have
pursued by Mad
almost been. It would have been almost, because I don't know what they have in store for the next episode.
Yeah.
But I want to say that it would have been better if they had planted the seeds for his redemption in this episode, and then waited till either the next episode or the resolution, which I assume is coming after part 2. Again, I don't know how many episodes are coming this season, but I feel like it would have worked better that way, where it would have been like, oh yeah, it was foreshadowed here was the development, and okay, here's the beat where he changes.
Or maybe not even in this episode. If we'd done it a few episodes earlier, last time we showed him in prison, if we had a scene with him talking with Ghost Eyes, and Ghost Eyes saying, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Because he had a few fairly pithy comments during the car chase.
So we're the wardens now, right?
Have the prisoners become the wardens? It's like, sorry, philosophy was my major. So if we'd had a conversation even just earlier in the season and had Gideon even partially open to it or just entertaining the thought at all,
or do kind of like a double take.
Yeah.
Like maybe even just hesitate or stammer and then go, no, that's not what it was, and then move on.
Then this would not have been out of the blue, but as it was, this was straight out of the blue. Now, and again, it's the only really weak point of a very good, very horrifying first part of the season.
Again, not to undermine it, because like I actually don't mind that trope of like a bad guy finding redemption because he actually learns to connect with other people. I don't mind that at all.
I just want the building blocks to be there.
Yeah, that's great character development. I like seeing that, and I like seeing that payoff.
Provided that it's actually developed.
Yeah, but like here it seems very, very rushed. And I don't know if that's because they were getting so many requests, during the hiatus, of like, hey, we want a quicker story. Maybe, and I hate to say it because I love what we've gotten this season, but I'm kind of also thinking maybe we missed some stuff because people wanted the plot to go so much faster. Maybe we sacrificed some character development in exchange for quicker story.
Well, and we did have a lot of episodes that were fun but also filler.
Yeah, and again,
there was a lot of chances that were not opportunities that weren't taken.
And I'm really hoping that when this season wraps up, both Dipper and Mabel are staying in Gravity Falls for good, and that's where the rest of the series goes. That's what I'm hoping.
I'd like to see them return back to California, have a time skip, and then come back to Gravity Falls next summer.
That's not a bad idea, too.
I am good with either.
I want them to stay. We could have a Christmas episod with the Krampus.
I think I would see a Christmas special, definitely, but I think after
and then a real Halloween episode.
But I think after Weirdmagedon happened, their parents would be like, No. No, they're coming home.
Or their parents would never let them go back for another summer. That's a bad argument, too. Anyway.
Their parents.
Well, and again, we don't know how this is all going to wrap up. They could have a cosmic reset and could end up back at the beginning of the summer. We don't know, with just all of, like, their friends' memories.
That would be weird.
It could happen. We don't know.
But it
would be weird. But have you looked at the things that are walking around outside?
Different kind of weird. But anyway. I feel like a cosmic reset where nobody remembers any of it is a waste.
I'm not saying nobody remembers it. I'm saying people do remember. Like, all that other stuff happened and everybody in Gravity Falls remembers it. But it's a cosmic reset and now it's June again or May.
Or whenever the heck.
And I don't want that necessarily. I want everything to go back to normal as it was right when the summer was about to end. But hey, guess what? We're going to stay in Gravity Falls because this is where the party's at.
I can see a cosmic reset of the past 24 hours. Or even I can just see everything being turned back to the way it was, but still needing some time to rebuild. Like, people aren't stone or anything anymore, but there's definitely some buildings that need to be put back together, and a water tower that wandered somewhere it wasn't supposed to be, and now that it no longer has a tongue, needs to be moved back.
I'm terrible at hand puppets. That's all I got. Anyway. Anyway,
I love the video game characters getting out.
That was
just
great.
That
Rumble.
Little bit. And the opening theme. The redo of the opening theme when it starts in that
with
key
the
and
skeleton
then
of Dipper,
and then flips to the minor key really hard, and you're like, oh, okay, it's the opening theme. It's gonna be this nice little. Did that just glitch? Oh God, that glitched. Oh God, it's in a minor key now. Oh,
it was very much like something out of The Ring or The Grudge, where you're just seeing this really weird imagery with this really weird. I'm thinking of in the original Ju-on, which was the original Grudge, where there's this part where this girl trying to make herself feel better is in her bed watching TV, and the television starts skipping, and it just goes to this like it's basically takes weird the form of like the monster that's about to kill her, but in this really weird glitchy way. That's very much what this opening reminded me of, and it was so great because it was messed up. It was Bill going, "This is my show now." Yeah. And I loved that.
And it was on the other side of the fourth wall that he could mess with the opening like that. And it just, the one thing that
reality is an illusion, buy gold!
The one thing that got me was, the campfire scene. Usually it's Stan telling a story and then it flares and there's a huge bat behind him.
Yeah.
It has 4 of the survivors all huddled together and beaten up, and then it flares with Bill behind them. Just like,
good.
Man, that's
everything
good.
In this opening was just so everything in this episode, with the exception of the
Gideon.
rushed character development, was really good.
Super good.
Anyway, I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
I think we've beaten it into the ground pretty well.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about what you think might be coming in the next episode, or anything else about this that you want to talk about?
Supposedly one of the codes at the end of the episode said, "We'll see which pines survive."
BS.
And honestly, I think Ford's on the way out. A lot of people think that Stan is going to die, and I really hope that's not the case. I think Ford is going to be gone because, let's face it, the series would miss him the least, and it's not really that kind of series.
I don't think anybody's going to die by the end of this. I genuinely don't.
They've been doing a lot of death imagery throughout the whole thing. There's been a lot of foreshadowing, especially in the codes at the end of episodes. So we'll see.
I'm not convinced. This
I will
is also
say
a show
that,
on Disney, and
because Disney never kills people unless they're mothers.
Bambi.
Or
Star Wars Rebels, dude. People are dead now.
People are dead now. People got beheaded.
So bad. People got beheaded. That poor minister. Oh,
yeah, I feel so bad for her.
Anyway.
But yeah, honestly, if a Pines is gonna go, I will not be upset if it's Ford. I will understand the character repercussions, but I will not be upset if that's the case.
I will be upset because it's the series having opportunity for greater character development with both Ford and Stan, and choosing to go, nah, Status quo was better. Which I
don't think we can go back to status quo.
I expect more from this show. I genuinely expect more from this show that has given me so much. I expect more.
Alex Hirsch has straight up said that he likes making people paranoid.
He does.
And someone's gonna die.
No, this is a guy
really good way
that
to do
quote unquote leaked a frame of Fiddleford
with
having
6 fingers.
who intentionally had it so that his hand was wrapped up all the time.
Deleted the tweet within a minute and then posted something about how angry he was, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, there was a leak!" And
he is a troll, ladies and gentlemen. He is a troll.
Said that he wanted to create a generation of young dippers who were paranoid about the world because that's how he grew up. And it's like, well, that's one way to do it.
You're doing a good job, man.
So
you're doing a good job, and you're doing a great job of entertaining. I mean, I know Alex Hirsch isn't going to be watching this, but if for whatever reason I ever get to meet him in any way, shape, or form, I just want to say you are doing a spectacular job, and I am so happy
I
to
want
be
to start a
watching this show.
Kickstarter for his therapy fund.
He's fine. He's channeling it into a creative outlet.
Okay.
I've seen weirder. Again, as weird as this is, I will take Gravity Falls weirdness over Ren and Stimpy weirdness any day.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's weirdness without a point.
Exactly. Gravity Falls
is horrifying.
Superb. And it's so great. It's so scary. So great. And yes, I hope...
There are going to be children with horrific, awful nightmares tonight.
I hope so. Because guess what? Fear is fun. Fear is so much fun. That's why I grew up watching Are You Afraid of the Dark? That's why I grew up watching Goosebumps. Fear is fun.
We approach this differently.
Fear is so much fun.
And on that note,
Katie, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet. You can also find me hiding under my bed from the stuff I've seen in this episode.
And I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. You be sure to follow Silver Screams at Silver_Screams on both Twitter and Instagram, and check us out on Facebook as well. If you guys have any thoughts about this crazy episode of Gravity Falls, leave them in the comments below, and also let us know if you have any more Halloween requests. We want to hear from you guys. We do. And again, I want to know, what was your favorite part of Weirdmageddon Part 1? Because we had so many. And just, again, Wendy and Fury Road, it was great. She was our Furiosa. It was so wonderful. She was
awesome.
She was. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you all next time.